Do we do a pledge now or do it at 5? Any opinion?
5 o'clock.
Sounds good. All right, and we're opening it up early in order to discuss the upcoming election and town meeting, and regarding specifically the mask ordinance and the most recent discussion on mask wearing. And I could defer to Scott and actually, Bob, you want to approach the somehow?
First of all, I want to hear what the state is saying. I think we're at a point where we're looking at running a meeting in the normal fashion. That we're going to ask people to wear masks, but I don't think we can enforce them. So there's no need to separate, and we'll just run it like a regular town meeting.
So the latest information that we have, even including today, is that Plymouth has 8 active cases as of 3 o'clock this afternoon. And that's the lowest that we've ever had, going back into late 2020, all through 2021. The university on the 2009 test that was conducted last week had 8 total positive cases, and they were all students, no faculty. And the school currently has 6 cases. So, in talking with the state at the end of last week, their feeling is the only way that we really can manage COVID now is through vaccination, is that people have done everything that they can do to take the necessary precautions that they need. But Dr. Chan made it clear last week, not only in his press release, but in a call, was that there's no need for masking in public places, indoors. It's a personal choice. If you feel your system is compromised, then you should wear a mask, but it should be personal choice now. And then the CDC backed that up on Friday with the information that they provided. So I think we're in a spot now where public health is saying the management is through vaccination, just as with the flu and any other virus that is amongst us.
Okay. So that being said, you've already waited on what we're going to be doing for the election and town meeting. Is there the need to do? Are you going to be doing that on your own, Kathy, or should we now, I guess, permit the non-wearing of masks in town offices?
Yes.
Did you do that by order, or was it at?
It was the board that decided to make all buildings.
Yeah. All right. So, is there a motion to retract that so that we can allow patrons and public to wear?
Question.
What's that?
Oh, you're asking for motion.
No, go ahead.
What's the percentage of the population that's vaccinated in Plymouth?
I mean, what you put this morning, 50.
Plymouth has been at 45% for months, fully vaccinated. One dose, 55%. The state as a whole is about 10 points higher than that. So 55% with one dose, 60-something% fully vaccinated statewide.
Is the university a lot higher?
Yes.
And do the numbers that you have reflect university or not university?
They reflect Plymouth residents.
So
By a proportion of the population, because if you go by the census data, students are counted as part of the population, but if we don't have the data that they were vaccinated out of state, the number might actually be higher.
That's true. So the state's only going to look at, if you say you're a Plymouth resident when you get tested, that's how it gets reported. But our numbers have come down dramatically every week for at least 5 weeks, as has the state's.
Our numbers started to come down on the 11th of February. We've gone from 73 cases down to 8 since February 11th to 3 o'clock this afternoon. And of course, those cases are the ones that are reported through testing facilities to Department of Public Health, not the home tests that people are taking. But And going into Rite Aid and CVS, there's plenty of home tests available, which makes me believe that the testing has come down from where it was a month ago with no test available in any store.
So, can someone make a motion? I'm like, make a motion to, be able to wear masks in town offices or not. Make it optional.
So moved.
Okay, well, that was a crappy motion, but that's all right. I was hoping to clean it up, but. All right, is there a second? Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Free at last.
We're gonna take them off.
So that's the same for town meeting, is what you're saying to Bob?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
Yeah, that's
same
what I-
rules should apply.
Well,
Right.
it's, yeah, his call, and he already called it.
Until the next time.
I
Yeah.
still would like to have it recommended that they be used, but we're not going to enforce. I would strongly have it recommended.
Okay, we're all vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
I am too.
Fully,
And
yeah.
I don't disagree with you, Bob, because I don't want people, whether they come in here, whether they go to the elections or town meeting, is the next thing that comes about is mass shooting. And that shouldn't happen.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that people have a personal choice if they feel compromised, or even if they want to wear a mask, they should be allowed to wear a mask without anybody mentioning anything. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, so I,
That's
wa-
gonna be our issue.
yeah, I know.
That's gonna be our issue, not having people should be upset for not wearing a mask. They're gonna be people that harass people for wearing a mask.
Right.
And just be aware of that.
I went shopping at Market Basket the other day. I wore a mask. I think it was a singular person in the store that had a mask on, so.
Yep.
But,
After Friday, it was like masks were gone.
yeah.
In Hannaford, Walmart, Market Basket.
Yep.
That's it.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bob.
Wow, that's all Bob had? I thought he was gonna run us through the mill.
Well, are we gonna stop there until 5 or what?
so,
Take a break for a few minutes.
Yeah, this is kind of rough. Yeah. I think we need a break.
I thought the discussion would take a little longer,
Yeah,
but,
yeah, same here.
yeah.
Can we dispense with something? Or I have to like do the formal whole deal there, I guess.
I think formal
recess,
Well-
intermission.
and a recess until 5?
I'll make a motion to recess till 5.
I'll second it.
Kind of hoping to zoom it through. Okay, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mary Ann, would you lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance? Where am I at? First order of business is to approve minutes. We have the February 14th regular meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the February 14th regular meeting minutes.
It moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mary Ann seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Announcements. All regular meetings will begin at 5 p.m. The Select Board is going to meet on the following dates. On Monday, March 14th, 2022. On Monday, March 28th, 2022. And all meetings will be held upstairs in the Town Hall and will be held by Zoom. Zoom information can be found on the town's website at plymouth-nh.org. Citizens wishing to be listed on the board's agenda should notify the town hall before noon the Friday before the scheduled meeting. And if a work session is needed, it will now be included with the regular meeting. Other important meetings in March. On Tuesday, March 8th, we have town elections, and that will begin at 8 a.m. and go to 7 p.m. at the Plymouth Elementary School. And then on Wednesday, March 9th, we have town meeting at the Plymouth Elementary School gym, and that starts at 7 p.m. Chairman's comments. I just want to make a comment for the fact that prior to the second part of our meeting, we ended up meeting to discuss the mask ordinance, or at least the requirement to wear a mask in town buildings. And we, based on best information that we received from CDC, DHHS, and our emergency management director, mask wearing is now optional, and it will continue for those that desire to wear a mask, but it's not necessary in town buildings. Purchase orders. The first, Ann Hebert, $9,000 grant for the airport for costs related to operations, personnel, cleaning, sanitization, janitorial service, and combating the speed of pathogens at the airport, and debt service payments.
So this is just a grant that I believe Colin has put in through the Aeronautics Foundation. The money is coming from the COVID Foundation. It's for the COVID fund, sorry. It's for $9,000, and basically it's going to cover any expenses at the airport that the airport has, which will allow them to take their budget and use it for other items as well. So this is a $9,000 grant, and they're still trying to work off the prior year's grant as well. I have all the paperwork here.
Good, because I don't.
So there should be, in your package, an actual motion that you need to read.
Okay.
The Plymouth Selectboard, what I'm asking to do is to vote pursuant to RSA 3195B, which allows for the acceptance and expenditure of unanticipated funds, the approval of the grant for a municipal airport in the amount of $9,000 from the state of New Hampshire through the coronavirus response and relief supplemental. It's CRRSA is the act. These funds for the Plymouth Municipal Airport for costs related to operations, personnel, cleaning, sanitizing, and janitorial services to combat the spread of the pathogens. And for debt services if they had any, which they do not right now. We, the Plymouth Select Board, further authorize Chairman William Bolton to approve a certificate of vote authorizing the Town Finance Director, Ann Hebert, as duly authorized to execute and deliver any contracts related to this grant on behalf of the Town of Plymouth. That is the motion that we need for this grant.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the red statement that Ann just read. I need to say more than that, or do I have to read the whole thing?
Authorize bill.
Authorize,
And authorize Chairman William Bolton to approve the certificate of vote authorizing Ann to carry out and execute and deliver contracts related to this grant.
I'll second.
okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have
Get
it.
signatures from you later. Okay. Something that was not on the agenda, Bill, is that
yet, which is this is regarding, did you want to describe it, please? Yeah.
This is a purchase order for $9,400. It is for payment to, I'm sorry, I forgot the company's name.
It's McManus and Nault.
Oh, thank you. $9,400, and it is for surveys, appraisals for the Plymouth Athletic Club and Lakes Region Golf Course.
Yep.
And that is for the Conservation Commission. It's part of the work that they advised that they would handle for taking over the conservation easement that's on the other side of the river.
Okay.
So it's, again, $9,400 is the amount that we're asking the board to approve. And that'll be taken out of the $25,000 that they have in capital reserve right now.
Okay.
So what's the Plymouth Athletic Club?
It's the land that's on the other side of the river where all this easement will be. There's land over there that's owned by the Plymouth Athletic Club. And then another part of land which is owned by,
Lakes Region Golf.
Lakes Region Golf Course. So it's that
Yep.
river banking area. where
Is
the-
Lisa on here or not?
She said she was going to be, but I don't see her.
But it's part of the Pemmy Oxbow Recreation Area.
It is, yep.
And it's a, collaboration also with Holderness Conservation Commission. And it's unfortunate that Lisa isn't here. Do you want to hold it until Lisa shows up, or?
No, there is an email there describing what it was for. I had a few questions for her.
Right.
But she answered them, and they're really directing this project. We just didn't have a purchase order in advance, so at some point we'll speak to them to make sure that anything over 1,000, we have a purchase order in advance, but
Okay.
it's new to them, I'm sure.
So is there a motion?
I move that we approve the $9,400 expenditure from conservation funds for this project
For the appraisal of the
appraisal.
golf course? Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Oops. Let's see if we can fit in. Actually, leave it all together. Oops. Okay. Scott, would you care to do your emergency management update?
I don't have anything further, Bill, than what we discussed earlier, at the 4:30. That's the COVID update.
Okay, we still got 5 minutes to kill, but that's fine. Oh, man.
We do have Thomas
Hugh?
Hugh. I don't know if that'll take more than 5 minutes, but he's
could.
been on.
Yeah, good is right.
Bill, well, you do have you.
We have me, yeah. What, that's in reference to LRPC? I imagine? Let's just, Mary Ann, your Plymouth Village Water and Sewer?
No, we actually meet tomorrow and I go on my little tour tomorrow. All right.
Excellent.
Yeah, kinda, I'll meet Jason South Street
Huh,
and take the tour.
that'd be good.
I can understand what happened at the shop.
That's great.
Yeah. But we meet tomorrow.
School districts? Conservation Commission?
Looking.
Campus Community Council? We haven't had a meeting yet.
Nope.
Planning Board? Zach's not here. Bill? I watched it. I didn't take notes. Sorry, June, that's not a testament on. But, we still got, what, 3 minutes? What the heck? All right, so, actually, I can, like, go through the Election and Planning Commission thing really quickly. So, we have, we're members of the Lakes Region Planning Commission. And there are 3 different entities that exist in Lakes Region Planning Commission. There's the commissioners, and then there's the executive committee, and there's the TAC members as well. And our town represents all three of those. We have the 2 commissioners, Zach, Terrell, and myself. We have 1 executive council person, that's myself. And then we have 2 on the TAC, and that's June and Joe. And so there's one thing that we haven't been able to attend in, I guess months or years, and that's the commissioners meeting. And they have that generally on a Monday. That is usually when we have select board, and it's usually at 6, and there's no way that we can generally do it. However, this year they decided to put the meeting in Plymouth. And there was some back and forth that I had with their executive director, because they were concerned about having it initially at the Museum of the White Mountains. There's no parking. And then it was at Plymouth Senior Center. There's an issue with mask ordinance, theoretically, but by the time they had their meeting, it probably would no longer be an issue. And so I offered to have it here with the board's approval and with with the town manager's approval as well. And so it's going to be on the 6th, and it's going to be March 28th. And what the heck is it? So, and it's the discussion points are bike trails and sidewalks. And I figured, well, geez, it's about time we had the meeting here, and we couldn't have asked for a better topic. So, yeah, it'll be March 28th, and it's bike and pedestrian plan update and survey results and opportunities for sidewalks and street lighting. And it'll be here at 6 o'clock on March 28th. So that means we're going to have to break early from our select board, which is probably around 3 hours earlier than we usually meet. So I think we might be in favor of that. But
Maybe, just maybe.
do we need any approval, or is that okay? And I'd like to involve PBTV as well, because we'll need to continue a Zoom meeting for those that can't attend, but we'll have about 20 to 24. So, all right. So what do we got? Hey. It's 5:15. I'm opening a public hearing. Where's the verbiage? Well, this public hearing is for the purpose of discussing the preliminary plans of the downtown stormwater improvement project along South Main, Warren, and Russell Streets. This $3.6 million project is funded by a $2.7 million grant from the Economic Development Administration in the town of Plymouth. And the project will include the construction of stormwater management infrastructure improvements on Main Street, Russell and Warren Streets in the downtown commercial district, consisting of approximately 4,750 linear feet of 12-inch to 30-inch stormwater pipelines, 83. Rather than me reading all this, could I just defer to the engineer and the town planner?
There is the next paragraph and the bullets, Bill, is very important for people to understand. So that
Okay.
should come from the board.
All right.
initially. I'm sorry. Thank you.
So Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District is also planning on replacing water and sewer lines along Main Street as a separate project, and we are working on coordinating the two projects. And it is important for the residents, business owners, and taxpayers to understand that the scope of the town's project is only for work within the town of Plymouth's right-of-way, and that the project does not and will not include additional streetscaping, additional parking and improvements to parking, or additional sidewalks, roadway realignment, and/or widening of any of these roads beyond the right-of-way. This hearing is for the purpose of reviewing the preliminary plans as being presented by the town's engineer firm of HEB Engineering, and to take questions on the proposed plans for the replacement of the stormwater drains. The plans are available to view on the town's website at plymouth-nh.org. Should I continue? Is that-
Just a brief synopsis of the next paragraph that talks about the grants are never 100% funded. We can only do so much with what we have for funding. And we want to make sure everyone understands that.
Let me nail that one down too then. So each time the town applies for a grant, an offsetting match is customarily required, as these grants are not 100% funded. So when the town applies for a grant, they should have the offsetting funding available at the time that they apply. The funding specific to this grant is 80-20, meaning the community must come up with 20% of the entire project cost plus 100% of additional work outside of the original scope of work. The total cost of this project is $3,641,520, with $2,700,000 coming from EDA and $941,520 coming from the town. The reason that the town is paying more than 20% is due to the additional work planned on Warren Street. And the board would always like to add substantial items that were discussed from the last public hearing, but at this time, the additional funding is not available from the town, which limits how much we can actually accomplish. Over the past several years, the community has put limited funds into capital reserve accounts for infrastructure improvement in an attempt to keep the tax rate to a minimal increase, resulting in us having to focus on the drainage improvements, which is the greatest need at this time. Again, we thank you for attending this hearing, and we welcome Josh McAllister of HEB Engineering, who will be presenting the preliminary project plans for this project.
Hi, I'm Josh. Hope everybody can hear me. I will preface by saying that the plans for the project are here. They're relatively significant. There's 20-plus pages in the plan set, and it's only getting larger. So I'm not going to present the actual design drawings because I think they're very technical, and it's probably not going to be the context of which people want to hear about the project. The project, as described, is a drainage project primarily. Our intent of this project is to improve the drainage systems for the lower portions of the village on the east side, where the runoff from the higher ground comes ripping down through the closed drainage systems to Main Street and then causes flooding at Main Street and below. So the general intent of this project and the reason for the award was for the improvements of drainage in the downtown area, specifically here, Russell Street, Warren Street, and South Main Street. The reason this project is happening is Plymouth has an aging stormwater system with inadequate capacity. The level of service is below the 1-year return interval, and as most of us are probably aware, we're getting larger and larger return intervals of rainstorms and melt in our communities. And so this creates to large-scale flooding in a lot of the areas in town, as I know you are all aware. I don't have to really explain that to you. Additionally, as stated earlier, the Water and Sewer District is also doing upgrades in the area, so it's time to try to couple these projects together. There will be a much larger water and sewer project that extends the full length of Main Street through the roundabout and further. The project here for us, we're focusing on South Main Street and then Russell Street and Warren Street as it comes down to the intersection between South Main Street and Warren Street. Funding was described earlier. Again, the scope is primarily a drainage project. Now, written into the scope in the EDA grant application was some roadway improvement, sidewalk improvements as needed. So we'll get into some of those design considerations as I briefly run through the overall scope of the project. And it's my intent to try to get to questions and comments from the general public as opposed to me going into real fine detail of the project design, because that can get pretty dry when you get into the engineering side of things. This project has been studied. This is a similar slide to the previous presentation that Dan gave in November. This project's been studied heavily. The drainage system in Plymouth was studied by both KV partners and ultimately again by Wright Pierce, who helped get the grant application for the portions that we're working on. The study encompassed more of the town than we are tackling as part of this project. I think there were 7 total drainage systems that were sort of analyzed and determined what sort of improvements could happen to them. And this project pieces off, I think, one of those systems and pieces of another system. So we're kind of taking all the information and hitting it with a slug of money and funding right now to try to tackle an immediate issue that also corresponds timing-wise with the water and sewer project. But there are many, many other projects in the town of Plymouth that came out of the studies that were done by KV and Wright Pierce that have future potential for projects to improve the drainage systems in the community. In the past, there's been conversations similar to this. The Water and Sewer District held some public outreach about their project. One of the things that's interesting about our project and their project is that they overlap. So conversations about keeping businesses open, allowing pedestrian access through Main Street, traffic control, those are all common to both projects in the areas where we overlap, which is primarily South Main Street from Highland to Warren, and then again along Warren Street. We conducted conversations with municipal staff and tried to collect information from them and critical project stakeholders. And then in November of this past year, we had a public hearing here where we wanted to just present what we had at that point in time and take in as much information as possible. As you can see here, the overall project overview encompasses Russell Street, which is, I don't think you can see my mouse, but it's on, you know where Russell Street is. You live in Plymouth. It's on the higher ground above South Main Street, running parallel with Main Street, and Warren Street connects the two. The project as a whole, the intent is to take the runoff that currently comes down Russell Street through different pipes, ultimately down into Main Street and down to Railroad Square and Green Street and Depot Street area. That water all comes from the upper hills and comes down past Main Street and just inundates the Main Street systems and the systems below it. This project is intended to take the Russell Street runoff, which actually collects runoff from Pleasant Street, which goes further up the hill, and bypass it toward Warren Street and down Warren Street so that runoff no longer makes it to Main Street. We're ultimately going to bring it down to ultimately near where the skate park is, where we will combine the systems from South Main Street and the Russell Street, Warren Street system into a common outfall there. And essentially the project's goal is to just take that uphill runoff and get it away from Main Street and in a different location. So to do that, we're putting in a closed drainage system in Russell Street, pipes and catch basins, directing that runoff down Russell Street and then ultimately into Warren Street, where there will be more pipes and catch basins. On South Main Street, we'll be increasing the size of the pipes and catch basins and adding basins in areas that we know there are ponding issues. It's a very flat road, so the water doesn't really have a lot of grade to make it anywhere in particular, never mind the catch basins that exist there now. And it's also in I'd say, a questionable state of condition, so runoff doesn't freely make it to where it needs to go. So these roads, Russell Street, Warren Street, and South Main Street, will be fully reconstructed, full depth reconstruction, regraded with cross slopes, and then ultimately closed drainage systems to bring that runoff down to the skate park area. Where we are right now is we are in the third circle on the schedule, final design and construction documents, which are intended to be completed at the end of March. We have completed our preliminary design, which is the plan set that we're theoretically reviewing right now. We have submitted our permit applications for New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services alteration of terrain permit, which is the entity in the state that governs stormwater quantity and quality of runoff. And we are required to improve the system in town and the ultimate outfall locations and as well the quality of the stormwater as it exits into the river. And then we are working right now through the final design drawings. We met with town staff to review the preliminary design. We have solicited different comments from various agencies, including DOT, who is the owner of the road between the white lines. The town of Plymouth owns everything outside the white lines. So we have received input from those entities, as well as working back and forth with Wright Pierce, who's running the water and sewer project, concurrently to ensure that our projects align. One of the things we actually did today is we received their updated water line layout and found conflicts with our own design. So we're shifting things around a little bit. So those are the activities that are happening right now. And by the end of the month, we will have constructible plans and basically a project manual that would include specifications and the actual contract documents that the town would award a contract to get this going. And the next step when we complete this and after that project manual is done is to bid this project. And right now we are anticipating bidding this project concurrently with the water and sewer project, through the water and sewer districts project. We're still working through the machinations of how that work with multiple funding agencies, but it seems as though that it's going to be a reality to advertise this project and ideally award it to one contractor. I think we can all recognize that having more than one contractor on a project this scale in the same location would be complex and could create some headaches. And then it's anticipated this project would start construction end of June, beginning of July, depending on the contractor and where they want to start, because they ideally would be awarded this project as well as the water and sewer districts project. The project has several challenges, and I'd be remiss if I didn't start with the drainage portion of it, since this is what the project is ideally set. These are a couple of photos that Joe took over the course of the last couple of weeks, where you get the combination of a flat road, snow curb, and poor drainage basin locations, and you end up with puddles everywhere. And I think like I said, it's the primary focus of the project is the drainage improvements, and the primary intent is to take the uphill runoff and get it away from Main Street while also improving the capacity of Main Street. Other project challenges are the overall infrastructure improvements. On South Main Street, we're going to be removing the concrete pavement that is below the existing pavement and reconstructing the roadway, full depth reconstruction. South Main Street, once you get past sort of the wider intersection with Highland Street, South Main Street is going to be intended to be a 36-foot wide paved width, which is generally the maximum width it has right now. So we took some variable width. Main Street kind of does this in width once you get past sort of the Fox block. It has some variableness. So what we found is that we could apply a consistent width on the wider end of that variety. And basically it allows for 2 10-foot lanes and then 8-foot shoulders, which could be utilized as either parallel parking or just 8-foot shoulder width. We'll be adding granite curbing to the project, similar to the rest of Main Street. This portion of Main Street all has asphalt curbing, and it's in poor condition. So granite curbing will provide sort of that consistency with the other portions of Main Street, but also some resiliency with the plows and so on. And then we'll be reconstructing the sidewalks on both sides of the road. Where they currently exist, we won't be adding new sidewalks anywhere. The roadway right-of-way width is 66 feet from the center line of the current pavement, which essentially on the east side goes into the buildings. So that would allow us to reconstruct sidewalks to the face of the buildings on the east side. And then there's plenty of room on the west side of the road to reconstruct those sidewalks with at least a 5-foot wide paved sidewalk just behind the granite curbing. On Russell Street, we'll be doing a full depth reconstruction as well, pulling out all the materials and putting in new gravels. Russell Street is another road that varies, and we found that if we match the wider portion of it we could fit in 5-foot wide sidewalks on either side of the road where there are currently sidewalks, and construct a 26-foot wide roadway, which would give you two 14-foot drive lanes. We are looking at, like I said earlier, installing asphalt curbing on both sides with a closed drainage system, and ultimately putting in a new realignment of the intersection between Warren Street, Russell Street, and Winter Street. There's that just wide open pavement area with a pole sticking out of it. We're going to be realigning the way Winter Street comes into Russell Street, and then create a singular intersection with Warren Street. And then, excuse me, and then Warren Street is again another full depth reconstruction, 26-foot wide, and we'll be installing closed drainage and some surface drainage with asphalt paved swales where we have to go across large driveways. We'll be doing paved swales to direct water to the locations where we can get in the basins. Another project challenge for us is vehicular and pedestrian access. I know you're aware of this in your community, but South Main Street is a highly populated and dense semi-urban business area. Russell Street is a highly populated and dense residential student housing area, and both of those create challenges when it comes to construction projects in general. Again, from our standpoint, from a vehicular and pedestrian access, specifically vehicular, we believe this project on Russell Street and South Main and Warren can be done with alternating one-way traffic, so we can maintain roadway traffic patterns all the time. It is not our intent to close Main Street or Russell Street or Warren Street for that matter. We believe that we can keep one lane open at all times. This will maintain traffic flows as they currently exist. We do, as you can see on the screen here, we're working our way through a detour for short closures. Some of these short closures might be, it's a Tuesday night and we're going to do paving at night on Main Street, as opposed to trying to do that during the daytime, and creating a short detour or a detour round makes sense in that circumstance. We do not think that we would ultimately, a majority of the construction project, have a lot of detours, but having that ability to know that we can send truck traffic and vehicular local traffic around and keep our construction area only open to local users is something that is important. There are some considerations for night work in this project, likely. I think it makes a lot of sense to try to do some of this work when it's at night. You know, a college town has some different night business times than, majority of the other communities in New Hampshire. So just shutting that, we just did a project in Conway where you can just shut everything down and work all night long, but that's not how Plymouth downtown operates, during the school year. And so, considerations for night work on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday evenings, where maybe the level of pedestrian traffic and business traffic in the evenings isn't as high. And then due to sidewalk work that's going to be happening in this project, we'll have to maintain accesses to the business fronts and the building fronts. So these are all things that we're working our way through as we're working through our construction documents. There will be some guidance in our construction documents and specifications to outline what the contractor needs to consider as part of their planning for both vehicular and pedestrian traffic. We don't generally tell them exactly what they can do. But we give them the guidance so that when they come up with a plan that ultimately is approved by the engineer, the town, police, fire, everyone signs off on a pedestrian plan or a traffic improvement or traffic control plan, they have the guidance is set there, and they're not just freely coming up with what they want. Parking is going to be a challenge in this project. The overall project intent is to generally maintain at the end the existing parking count location on South Main Street in particular. We've done enough semi-urban downtown projects to know the minute we get rid of one parking space, somebody is going to be upset. So the intent of this project is to try to put the parking back where it is at the end. During construction, there's likely going to be a loss of parking. I'll put that out there now. I'm not going to beat around the bush. To maintain traffic on Main Street and having the ability to alternate traffic patterns, we're likely going to have to utilize the space available by the parallel parking spaces during construction. And that may not be all the time, and that may be only in the area that we're working at any particular time. So it might be a 200-foot section or a 300-foot section at a time, but it's just something to, that's a reality as part of this project, that during construction, the ability to park on South Main Street is going to be limited. And there's no on-street parking considered for Russell and Warren Street. I don't believe that on-street parking is supposed to be happening on Russell and Warren Street, but the project itself, with a 26-foot wide paved roadway, is not designing parallel parking spaces on Russell Street. Other challenges for this project: communication and safety. I described Russell Street's activity. We all know how Russell Street is sort of set up and the amount of people who live there. We all know that Main Street is a dense commercial area. And project butters are going to need to be kept apprised of the timing of work and potential impacts to their businesses or their residences, which is the most critical aspect of the project. And one of the good things about having federal funding or funding of any type on this project is that they're requiring the design engineer to work on behalf of the town as the town's representative on site. So HEB will have a resident engineer on site for the duration of the project. I believe that's also the case for the Water and Sewer District's project. So both of these projects will have some representation on this project. We will be looking to the town and providing the town with information to provide a centrally located hub of information, likely on the town website or something like that, where we can give up, this is what's coming up this week. We've also had success. We did a project in the city of Berlin, which was very very densely populated as well, with businesses and residences alike, where we had an email list of abutters, and we're able to send out a blast once a week of, here's what's coming up next week, be ready. We'll probably be shutting off the water, or shutting down access to this house for 15 minutes while we place pavement or something along those lines, just so that we're able to update everyone and people can plan around that time. And then again, our person will be on site the whole time. So questions, their primary role is to watch construction, but I think their secondary role is conversations with the abutters and answering questions and so on, especially in the busy downtown / urban type environments. And then finally, one of the things that we're working on right now, and this really comes into safety, is working with the town to identify available parcels of land to provide staging for construction equipment and materials that are not in use. Again, Plymouth is a unique community with a university, and there are some additional concerns with just parking construction equipment overnight that aren't real in other communities. So identifying appropriate ways to stage construction equipment and store materials is something that this project thought is going to be going a little bit. We've already started the conversation, but thought is going to be going a little bit more into it on my end over the next couple weeks to really detail what that looks like for this project. So I didn't get into the nitty-gritty on design. I gave you some touched on some points with what we're considering to do in each of the roads. I know there are some questions about roadway width, specifically on Main Street, and probably some other questions as well that I may be able to answer on the fly here. But again, going through the plans in a public setting is challenging. Bottom line is that South Main Street is generally going to look the same when it's done. It's just going to be new pavement at generally the same width with generally the same amount of parking and granite curb. The sidewalks on the backside of that granite curb are going to be new on Main Street. Russell Street is going to look a little bit different. It's going to be a brand new road, but it's going to have a closed drainage system with some asphalt curbing and new 5-foot wide sidewalks on the backside of that asphalt curbing. One thing that I didn't mention is we will be taking away the grass strip between the sidewalks on Russell Street and the curbing, and just pushing the sidewalks to the back of the curb and having any grassed area or landscaped area outside the sidewalk, because it's impossible to maintain that little strip of grass without it just being dead. From a financial standpoint, the project that we've presented in our plans comes in just about at the budget. that is available that was read off at the beginning of the presentation, we included a 20% contingency in our estimating at that point in time for things that we just hadn't foreseen as part of the preliminary design. And there's also some other considerations for different portions of the project that may be covered by the Water and Sewer Districts project and or where there's overlap between our two projects. So it appears as though what was written as the overall scope of the project, which we designed to, fits within the budget that we have so far. Now, the bidding environment and contractors and where those numbers will come in, the numbers I'm utilizing are our most recent estimates for unit costs, but we'll see how that compares when actual bids go out. That's, I guess, my summary of where we are. And again, we're still working our way through a lot of the fine design details, and that'll be done within the next month.
All right, thank you. I'd just like to open it up to anyone that might have any comments or questions about the project. Who's the hand? Oh, yeah, hey, Frank. Excuse me, you want to identify yourself and?
Frank Miller. The Plymouth Insight has a 6-foot offset into the driving lane width of Main Street, and there is no catch basin between the one that's in the box block and the one that's in Printers South.
Mm-hmm.
There is a catch basin on Plymouth Terrace Road that used to come down by the Plymouth Insight, and that's one that runs down the hill and puts dirt out on Main Street. Right,
Webster Terrace.
So, I know you said that you were going to stay within the existing profile of the way, but the fact that you're gonna have to put a catch basin in that area, it'd be a shame to put it out in the roadway when in fact we need to move that sidewalk back 6 feet to parallel the road in order to maintain the specifications of parallel parking along the major thoroughfare by state standards, having a 10-foot lane. So has that been addressed or talked about?
So in the area right past the Fox block, so it kind of narrows up.
Correct.
Right in that location. And it narrows up in that location to 36 feet, pretty much at its current width, which is the way we're laying that out is 2 10-foot lanes and 2 8-foot spaces outside of that. Well, I think that area is unique more so than the remainder of the road in that it does funnel. Like you go from wide open pavement as you're coming through Main Street and various traffic patterns in and around, here, just all the different things, and then you funnel right down into a single road with parking on both sides. We are not changing the design of the road in general. This project does not include, widening the road for the full length of the project. That's not within the scope of what the application or the grant was awarded for, nor is it likely, since we're right up on the budget, within the budget. So what we have is generally in that location where things sort of narrow up, that's where we start our 36-foot wide roadway width that runs all the way to Warren Street. We basically narrow in from Highland to that point, and then it's 36 feet wide, basically 18 feet on either side of the yellow line from there. Now, I could look at my plans now, but we identified the locations of where the catch basins are now and said, if there's a catch basin there, at some point in time, water wanted to go there. That's one thing that we've learned as engineers. If there's a catch basin there, the water probably wants to be there anyway, even if it was put in after the fact or as an emergency reserve, that ultimately, if you're going to reconstruct everything, you don't want to take them away. We have looked at the profile because we basically ran a 3D model of the roadway, took a look at the curbing profile and identified appropriate locations for that. But I've marked down, the Webster Terrace area to ensure that we have appropriate drainage in that area.
Well, like I say, there is no catch basin on Main Street.
Right.
And you're gonna have to put one there.
Yes.
The fact that you put one out in a parking space, and then we ultimately try to parallel and get that way straightened out, then we'll have a catch basin out in the middle of the way.
Right.
That seems odd that this would be a time to we put the catch basin in where it would be if the way we're adjusting correctly.
So yeah, we're going to be placing, the catch basin would be placed at the interface between the pavement and the curbing. So we're not going to place it in an area where there's not pavement or curbing. So we're not going to have it out in the middle of pavement. It'll be all the way at the far end of the parallel space. It'll be all the way against the curbing on the backside.
Steve?
So I didn't, maybe I got here a little late, I apologize, but did you talk about trees and about preservation of trees and enhancement of trees possibly on South Main Street?
We did not talk about that. And there is no proposal for the installation of trees as part of this project. I believe we're working in already disturbed areas, so we're not anticipating removing any trees. As far as I can tell here, we're reconstructing the road where it is. We're putting in new curbing, and then we're going to tear out the bad pavement that goes to the fronts of buildings and put in new pavement. Is really all that's happening on the backside of the curb. So anywhere there is sidewalk, asphalt sidewalk, we would replace it. That's the intent. Anywhere where there's walkways that go to a business that's beyond the right-of-way, we would replace the walkway to the right-of-way line, and then the private property would be responsible for replacing their walkway the remainder of the way. But it's not in the scope of work to enhance trees in this area, as this project was a drainage project to begin with.
So can you tell me, are there trees in the pedestrian right-of-way now?
I don't believe there are many trees that are in areas that are paved. No. It's not similar to the other portions of Main Street have plantings straight through. I don't believe there's plantings on South Main Street.
Yeah, there are. There used to be.
That's what I thought.
Not sure.
Not many. There's
Not-
that one that came down in front of Six Burner Bistro recently in the last couple of years, but there's not many
Yeah.
sidewalk trees.
I would think like 3.
Maybe. And if they are, they're probably not right in the right of way.
So there's no deep digging in the, for the sidewalk portion?
This-
So it's gonna be minimal deep.
Sidewalk will probably, at worst, it'll be 2 inches of asphalt. So you tear up the asphalt that's there and put in, depending on the materials that below it, we probably would propose to put in 4 to 6 inches of crushed gravel below it. So we would be looking at 6 to 8 inches of excavation in the sidewalk area.
So I just want you to be mindful of trees in the vicinity, because we don't want to destroy the root structure if possible, and whatever we can do to remediate the effect is positive, because we like our trees. We're a tree city. We want to keep them there. Kathy will be very unhappy if you mess with her trees. She's in charge of them.
Save.
I'm the tree warden.
We'll keep track of them.
Yes, Rebecca?
Just want to kind of piggyback on what Steve said. Rebecca Hanson, Chair of the Planning Board. We had some lengthy conversations, I remember, and Mary Ann and Bill, I'm not sure which of you were on the board at the time, but it was when the tree came out in front of the Panther Club. So there were more trees on South Main Street. And we had some long conversations, involved the electric co-op, to talk about replacing those trees. So there are a lot of trees that are noticeably absent right now, and I think it would be a shame to just pave over those spaces that once held trees. And I understand that there's no streetscaping involved in this budget, but to just all of a sudden have pavement where we used to have a tree, it means we lose an easy option to replace trees.
Does the co-op still owe us some trees?
I kind of remember, did they say they were going to give us some trees?
I thought
It was
so.
like, I thought they did 2. They already did 2 or
I think
something.
it was 3, too, yeah.
I think they took down 3, and we're going to replace 3, but they've only done 2 or something like
Right,
that.
Panther Pub hasn't been replaced.
Okay.
Mary Ann should be in charge of that one tree that's necessary. But of course,
I'll take that out.
Kathy.
The guys,
Yes.
Good, how are you?
Good. My name is Jeff. I manage several of the student rentals on Russell Street. I also own a property on Warren Street.
Great.
So I'm looking super forward to this.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Can I ask just kind of all my questions at once? They're not.
Sure. Yeah,
they're
but
not
go ahead.
lengthy. You said you were gonna start the process at the end of June of this year. Is that gonna be started on the Pleasant Street, Russell Street, or is that gonna start on Main Street?
That I don't know. So I can't tell you exactly where the contractor is going to start. I do know that the overlap between our project and the Water and Sewer District's project is Main Street and Warren Street. And I know that there's timing with some of the funding that this Water and Sewer District has with theirs that I think requires sort of their project happening first, or this portion of their project happening early. And since ours is a smaller project, I think they're going to focus their work up there too. So from being able to say that the contractor is just going to do South Main Street first or just going to do Russell Street first, I'm not sure I can answer that question, because the contractor, depending on the size of the one we get, might be doing both at the same time, depending on what they have. So I don't know if I have that. We do have, and the town has given me a lot of the information regarding, move-in day and orientation and all that stuff, and, basically shutting down construction during move-in day, and just saying you can't work during these times. We have some critical dates that have been provided to us to consider because we can tell the contractor what days they can't work, and they can work that into there. But we don't want to tell them exactly how to do their work, because then I take the liability of it. So I don't know if that answers all of your question, but I think I got maybe chunks of it.
It's part of it. Just so you know, any landlord will tell you now, it's not move-in day anymore.
Right.
It's like move-in month.
I think
and you talked about that.
We have.
Just so you're aware.
I think we talked about it was like a week of shutdown is what we had, several days of shutdown that we considered.
I just want,
Yeah.
Probably ought to have some scheduled shutdown days and let the landlords know about them.
Yeah.
So the landlords can use those as movement days, ideally, right? Landlord might think so.
With the residents that I have there, is there going to be weekend work? And you had said something about night work. Were you only talking night work downtown, or were you talking night work on Russell and Pleasant? And on your night work, is this a second shift or third shift?
Typically, if it's night work, it's going to be more work. Another crew comes in and keeps on going from the day work. I think the intent for the night work, and I can't speak to this specifically, but Wright Pierce started this conversation with the Water and Sewer District, and they outlined the areas for night work to be solely located along Main Street. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't consider night work in other locations, especially in July when there are fewer residences or people living on those roads or on Russell Street in particular. I would anticipate that, one, the contractor doesn't want to do night work unless it's paving where they can just get everybody out of the way. And two, if they do night work, it's probably going to be the more heavily trafficked areas than Russell Street, for all intents and purposes, is pretty easy to control from a construction standpoint, just during the daytime, getting people in and out. But I'll make sure I pay attention to that.
It would be tough to have, the residents there if you were have a truck out there.
Yeah.
3 in the morning.
Agreed.
So.
And to answer your question about weekends, I don't anticipate weekends being, and if it does, it's going to be because of an emergency, or we're running out of schedule, or there's some things we got to fix up, and that's a conversation that'll be had with the contractor in the town to see if we can authorize it. But I would probably anticipate that my contract will start off by saying construction work will run between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, with these shut down, and then anything else would require special permission, is sort of the way those schedules work.
And you had said a lot of that stuff will be updated like on the town website as well.
Yeah, it's our intent to try to make sure that we provide you with more information than you need, hopefully.
You had mentioned something about parking on Russell Street, and I guess just more of a clarification. On Russell Street for our residents, parking opens up June 1st to September 1st.
Okay.
So all our residents park in front of our buildings. When this project's done, that's not changing, correct?
The only thing that's going to be different is that the curbing will be better defined.
Because you had mentioned something about parking up.
We're not I have to make the statement out loud that I'm not designing parking spaces there.
So those will come back when this project.
That's up to.
Well,
It's just on-street parking. It's just.
But they use them.
Oh, yeah.
Tenants use them
Oh, no.
because they're too lazy to walk around.
That's why I have to say that.
Yeah.
I'm not designing parking. Just liability.
And I guess my last, tougher question is, So when you open up the sidewalk, and I'll use my example, like when you open up the sidewalk in front of 26 Russell Street,
Yep.
which is a building I manage.
Sure.
And you open up that sidewalk and the sewer line is broken, wrecked, or whatnot, and you said, you have people on site for,
Yep.
for the projects. Now, is that like a red flag? I mean, if someone sees that, is someone going to, notify the,
Yeah.
manager or the owner and say, hey, listen, we opened this up and your sewer line's half broken?
Yeah, I think if it's in the right of way, it would be the responsibility of the water and sewer district to, if it's water or sewer services, for them to fix it. So we could also hit the water line and break it.
Yeah.
So that happens way more than we need. It becomes an emergency and it gets fixed right away. And so whether the contractor who broke it fixes it under the direction of either the town or the water and sewer district, those things get fixed immediately. If we find something crazy that's happening from your property that may be another conversation. But if there's an emergency, if something's broken and leaking water or anything else, it should get fixed.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Ken Brown, and I had a question about the detention pond down by the skate park.
Yes.
I know we've only seen preliminary plans so far. Your intention there to build that detention pond to the north side of the skate park?
So if you're standing on the skate park and you look back towards the highway or the road, there's all that scrub growth right at the bottom of the slope. That's where we're intending on building the pond.
And who owns that property?
Alex does.
And did you consider at all putting the pond to the south of the skate park?
We did. There's wetland there.
Did you do something?
We analyzed the soils and we delineated wetlands in that area. When you get into that spot, it starts creating wetland permitting, which slows things down pretty quickly.
And I noticed the pond was fairly deep.
It is.
Where you have
It's.
now. Does the seasonal high water table that low?
No, it's not that low. It's actually a wet pond. So we're excavating down to ensure that the deeper portions of the pond have a standing pool. So water comes in, allows sediment to drop, old water comes out through an outlet pipe, and then as larger storms come in, it's able to pond out and spread into what we have as an infiltration area, and then the rest of the water can sort of recede through infiltration.
Was any consideration given to maintaining some access there past the pond?
What do you mean by some access?
Well, there's a travel way now.
We're going to continue that. We're going to ensure that stays. Right now, we're working through a pond redesign after conversations with Alex. And so right now we had the pond sort of wedged into the triangle between, we'll call it Railroad Square, and just the slope and there. After talking with Alex, we're redesigning redesigning it a little bit to push it more towards Railroad Square, but maybe realigning where that traveled way would be. But the intent is to keep the traveled way on Railroad Square.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have some questions.
Anybody else from the public at this point?
Tell me
Nope.
what you mean by Railroad Square?
Well, the dirt patch between the skate park and where we're putting the pond, sort of where everybody parks for the skate park and is not passable at the moment.
So that's going to become
We're not going to reconstruct We're not going to reconstruct anything there. We're going to reserve space for future use if desired.
well, there never has been anything constructed there.
Right. So we're not going. Right.
That's actually called unnamed way.
Unnamed way.
From Route 3 to the intersection of Railroad Street to Railroad Square Road area, that's called unnamed way on the map. 1900.
Is that the 911 name for it, or? Really? Jeez.
Frank's name.
Huh. Thanks, Frank. And
I have
Bill?
some questions. I have several questions. Is your retention pond going to have subsurface ground treatment?
No.
Are you going to have weekly construction meetings between construction management, water and sewer, and town management?
The intent is either to do weekly or biweekly. We haven't finalized that plan, but there will be regular construction.
What's the duration of your project?
My anticipation, since we're starting this project in July, is that this project will extend through the remainder of the 2022 construction season, and work toward substantial completion toward the end of next construction season, which would be maybe finishing up paving and those wearing course paving and those types of things through the next construction season.
Thank you.
I've got a question. So, if streetscape money should happen to be found, could that somehow be part of, or at least accommodated by the work that's going on, or?
That's a complicated question.
Yeah, I know it is, yeah.
Depending on where you find that money.
Oh, that's right.
if
It's
you
it can't be federal money.
Well, it could be, I don't know if it could be a separate project, but on a more realistic timeline is if it becomes TAP funds or CMAQ or anything like that, your project timeline from beginning to end is 3 years. It wouldn't hit at the same time as this project. Those are long duration lead up times from design to construction.
Okay.
But the good news is that with what we're doing, if we reconstruct the road and we put in good granite curb, if you wanted to do anything on the back side of that curb, maybe not building bump outs and all those other things, but anything on the back side of the curb, there would be, new asphalt that is relative. I mean, asphalt is a good solution for the sidewalk because you can cut it and do whatever you need to do, and it's relatively inexpensive to repair. So there may be some opportunity there, but I don't think it's realistic to think that it could run in concurrence with this project.
Okay.
I've got one more. Are you going to have handicap access where the curbs are?
Yes. I mean, in post-construction condition, we are providing ADA ramps with detectable warning plates at all roadway crossings. So we will have an ADA crossing. I think there's only a couple of them along Main Street where we cross with ADA sidewalks. We are putting in 2 crosswalks, generally where the 2 crosswalks are now, but what we're providing as part of this project is putting those crosswalk locations, there's some slight shifts, so that they have appropriate landing areas on both sides. So the crosswalks won't go from one place to nowhere or the middle of a driveway. It will go from an ADA ramp to an ADA ramp on each side of the road. So I think there is a shift in one of the crosswalk locations, just slightly, just to make sure we can hit sidewalk on both sides.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, and this might actually be more in line for Plymouth Village Water and Sewer or June
Sure.
or somebody is, so obviously the whole road, South Main Street, needs to be torn up. But it does not seem like the or the sewer line is part of the Plymouth Village Water and Sewer project.
It is not.
But we have some commingling in that neighborhood. Does it not seem like the right time to include that in the Plymouth Village Water? Is that, I mean, this is maybe a can of worms.
It's a can of worms for sure. I can't speak to the Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District project. I do know that a majority of their work on South Main Street is water related. I do believe there's some consideration for connections, but I'm not sure. I am planning on keeping what's called an allowance in our bid that's just called connections, and defining it as if you find something that needs to be changed, let's change it. Because I do know that there's floor drains from certain areas and roof drains that come into the system, and they might come in places where we don't have structures and just wide in. And so we're going to consider sort of a bucket of available money, hopefully in our bid for contractors to, there'll be 2 buckets. 1, to do exploratory excavation to see if they need to find something, and 2, to potentially resolve surprises. I mean, we learned that in Berlin. The city of Berlin was just built over years, and it's very similar kind of to the way Plymouth has evolved in this downtown area where, sewer and stormwater are always together. Then they sort of got separated, and then some things were separated, and some things are still not separated. And so that's that dynamic has a lot. We've learned our lesson to make sure that you'd rather have extra money sitting in a bucket than have to get a change order for it after the fact,
or have something,
or just not
2 years from now,
and have to cut the road up. We don't want to see this thing in 3 years with trenches going across the road. I would agree, and I'm hoping. I believe in my conversations with the Wright Pierce that they are considering that because they are dealing with sewer and other portions, but on South Main Street in particular where we overlap, I'm going to try to keep some consideration for surprises.
Yes, Steve, go ahead.
So I tried to figure out what you're planning to do by looking at your maps, and I couldn't. Number one, your symbol page cannot be transferred to paper and read. So at least in my technology, you've got a PDF, but when you put it onto a single page, you can't even read the print. It's so small. So you can't figure out exactly what your symbols mean or how they translate onto the map. So it made it really hard to try to figure it out. So is there a solution for that? I mean, do you have a big map someplace that we could actually see what we're talking about? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I own property on Main Street. My partner owns a piece of property at the intersection of Winter and Russell and Warren, right there, that
Yep.
little peak
Yep.
there, which is either isn't in the scope of things, or it is very much in the scope of things. Hard to tell. So I'm wondering how. So that piece of paper right there is the answer.
The town has copies of full-size construction plan, or the preliminary design plan set.
Copies?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I can look at that and June can interpret it for me. Tell me what this means and everything. And there's no color version of the thing, so everything is always black and white.
The reason it's black and white is the minute the contractor copies it to make their own copies on site, the color goes away. So we try to avoid adding color to our plans.
Okay. Because that would seem to be, that would have been an improvement from my point of view. Could you just talk about that intersection between Winter and Russell a little bit? And,
Yeah.
and tell me what's going to happen there?
Yeah, can you screen? June's going to share that.
And then I want to ask you about the drainage, the storm drainage that's behind the buildings on Main Street, on Chase Street.
We're not improving anything there.
Not improving it.
Nope. We're removing, well, I guess there are improvements that happen downhill of Main Street in the fact that a lot of Russell Street actually bypasses Russell Street drainage, specifically where Pleasant Street comes in, actually has a trunk line that runs downhill past Main Street and down to the lower portions below Main Street. So the improvements that happen in that area is we're reducing the amount of stormwater that goes there, but there are no physical construction improvements that are happening below Main Street.
And everything that you're bringing off of Main Street and Russell Street goes to the retention pond?
Yes.
That's all downhill. So where does your project start? What?
We go from Highland Street to the pond area by the skate park, and then we go from the intersection between Russell Street and Pleasant Street down to Warren Street, and then down Warren Street to the same location as the
So
end.
nothing north of the intersection aisle on the street in Maine.
I step in, I'm going to speak loudly and go away from my microphone. So Warren Street, or Russell Street realignment with Winter Street and Warren, the original roadway alignment is out here. This is all currently, this area right here is all paved. What we're doing is we're going to bring in Winter Street into Russell Street, and then provide a singular access onto Warren Street and reduce all of the pavement in the general area. So this area, which is on town, which is in the town right of way, is where we're just removing pavement. Ultimately, we're just taking the seat of pavement and concentrating it a little bit. All within the right of way, and even then outside of that, I think this is town owned. This corner over here is town owned, but we're not getting outside the right of way or doing anything on private property.
So that little pocket park, I call it a pocket park, and it's across from the so-called dollhouse,
Yep.
which is that one little rectangle there.
Yep.
Remains as is, but actually gets bigger.
Gets bigger.
And how does it? And there's curbing.
In that area, I don't know if we've proposed curbing. Yes, we have. I believe we have curbing coming down that hill because we have to concentrate the runoff. The runoff runs along the curb edge.
Right. Well, it actually runs into the river area. There's a riverine there, or a brook on the other side.
Yep.
And the remnants of an old dam And I don't think you're gonna get into it, but that's good.
And we're not going anywhere over there.
Rebecca?
So on the east side of South Main Street, there's several huge curb cuts that make pedestrian travel fairly dangerous.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if there's anything that can be done in the reconstruction of those to denote the pedestrian traffic a little better?
That's something that we discussed pretty heavily between the town staff and myself. And what we found is unfortunately, those large curb cuts are head-in parking. And the minute we close that off for any pedestrian improvements, the businesses in those areas lose their available parking. And so that's not in consideration. Those, as much as an engineer, I know June as a planner, controlling curb cuts, and even DOT, everyone trying to concentrate the curb cuts to reduce conflicts between pedestrian traffic and vehicular traffic is on everyone's forefront, but not at the detriment to the businesses that are currently there. That was the only, we analyzed it pretty heavily, and that was the only, we couldn't find a good solution to doing that.
Yes, Frank?
This retention pond, is it gonna be fenced off? If it's gonna be constantly have water of any significant depth, and I'm worried about the skateboard park being an attractive nuisance to kids.
Yep.
Pond.
Yeah, it is not, it's not proposed to be fenced off at this point in time. The depth of the standing water is about 2 feet. It's a wet, it's sort of got a bowl, and that bowl is wet. And then as water builds up, there's a plateau. And that area in the plateau is an infiltration area to allow, when we get those larger storm events, we can get that water quickly into the ground, as opposed to letting it build up and go out through a pipe.
Any other comments from our crowd? And is there anyone online that could raise their hand or have any question or comment? Which I don't see. So, last call. All right. Well, it's approximately 6:15. I'm closing the
Thank
public
you.
hearing. Public hearing, bring it back to the board. Do we have any additional? Okay. So, in that case, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Where are we? How could I lose this thing? There we go. All right. So we excuse me. Well, let's wait for it to calm down a little bit. I could smack the gavel.
You could.
That's what I was gonna say.
Here, you do it.
You do it, he said.
Here, just do it on your phone.
It's a Samsung, and it's perfect. I could do that. Never breaks. We're starting our meeting again, and the next item is June Hammond Rowan on the trail easement for Riverside Landing.
Switching gears here.
So I guess tonight we're here to talk about the trail easement that you started the discussion a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, right? For Riverside Landing, there's the conservation easements and this trail easement. These were put in, or coming to you as a condition of approval for from the site plan review application from last spring for Riverside Landing 2 for their second phase. So I know I was not able to attend the meeting 2 weeks ago due to another commitment. And I guess you wanted to continue the discussion. I had a memo there for you from 2 weeks ago, so I did not prepare anything new, except I did do a quick hand-drawn sketch, which I guess you have in front of you, and I can also pull it up here via screen share. It was just a quick attempt, if I can find the right file. Sorry, hold on a second. That one. To, just kind of review the location of the easement, the rough location of it, and for some reason I'm not seeing what I need to see here. Try that. Are you seeing the HED plan? Or seeing the right one? I just did this quickly by hand, just tried to color in. So the area here with the red line, this is from the Plymouth tax map. I tried to give a little bit more of the neighborhood sort of view of the location of the Riverside Landing area there. The two yellow parcels kind of bookending on either side there are where the conservation easements that you approved 2 weeks ago. Those will be, again, they're wetland mitigation easements. Aquatic habitat is the goal there, and they're not recreation-based. So I know that originally, I guess the plan was to kind of utilize those two parcels in conjunction with this trail area to create a recreational-based opportunity for the town. So that's why the planning board adopted that as conditions of approval for the site plan for Riverside Landing. So we've been working on getting the actual easement document, which I believe you have in your packet from 2 weeks ago, that outlines the roles and responsibilities of the town if you were to accept this easement. And it's really up to now, this is, in order, so the next slide here is, again, I tried to kind of color on the sides the yellow areas. This is the actual site plan where proposed new development would be happening in this area, showing here's Market Basket, the liquor store, Fairfield, and the bank. So we're looking at the next phase in here and the easement area around it, along the down by the river. Really, there was three about some mortgages, encumbrances. They're gonna that description is being addressed. So the other two components is just making sure that it's in accordance with what the select board had understood, wanted for an easement, and making sure that you understand the responsibilities. And you would need to, at some point, if you were to accept the easement, appoint a trail manager, working on behalf of the town. So. I don't know what other questions you had from 2 weeks ago about this.
Yeah, is there any possibility that where it terminates on the west end, that it could be extended back up to the parking lot?
As it was presented at the time, it was to go over to the conservation land. So that is something I think we could go back and ask the applicant to do as a modification to the site plan based on the changes, but we'd have to figure out where it comes. And there's sort of a retaining wall behind, Market Basket there, so it drops off pretty quick. So it would be difficult to do. To me, the way that western portion of the site has been developed, it isn't an easy access back up in there. So it's kind of an out and back, I guess.
So there is a possibility in the future that the trail could be extended across the easement area.
Conservation easement area. Again, that was a big issue that the board had discussed numerous times. The terms of that conservation easement, which you, I believe, accepted you agreed to move ahead with at the last meeting.
I think there was to be no trail on
it. Was basically, it's not a recreational-based easement. The goal of it is to protect the habitat that's being lost as a result of this project. As part of the aquatic mitigation program from DES. So it's basically a condition of their wetlands permit. They were putting more restrictions on it than I think the town really wanted, but it was due to the nature of the condition of their wetlands permit. In order to get that permit to do the filling, they had to have a higher level of sort of conservation, I guess, or different purpose for it, non-recreation based.
So the only, I mean, if we kind of anticipate a use, theoretically, there, could be a trail that goes from, the town gardens to, well, you can see, well, can you see? I guess you can't see. On the initial one that when you put up, it shows a bridge over, no, it doesn't have it here. So, the trail theoretically could go from the, community gardens under the bridge, and ultimately dead end right at the end of the markings on this map. So it might extend it by the trail theoretically by another half a mile, quarter mile, something like that, maybe a half mile, and that also would be a good takeout point if there ever is a trail that goes from North Main Street under the bridge, and then you could go up that trail, pick up a car that's parked in that area, and take off. Theoretically, there is a use, or at least the access to that little, the trail down below, if there is the ability to actually make that a trail and go through wetlands in order to apply for it and get permission to be able to have that little bit along the Baker. I don't know.
I guess we just added, keep in mind this is an easement for the right to have a trail there. The applicant, Riverside Landing, is not constructing the trail. That's the responsibility of the town, and there is potentially shoreline protection permits that would be needed depending on the exact alignment of it. I can't say for sure, not knowing, so it's kind of outlines, it's an easement. It gives us the right to have it at some point in the future. Doesn't mean it has to get constructed next week or at some point in the future. Or never.
The other concern was who is going to accept this easement, who is going to monitor this easement? Who is going to be in charge of this easement? At one point, it was recommended that Park and Rec, they don't monitor any other conservation easements. And I think that the aspect of them having to take on that responsibility really isn't under their domain.
Well, I was kind of thinking like the Conservation Commission,
Right.
but I also talked with Lisa too, but I think they do.
Who's on now?
Okay, but I think they, at least Parks and Rec does cut some trees and stuff or maintain the trail over by Fox Park. But I just kind of see this as a Conservation Commission duty. And I think Lisa would have welcomed it, probably had it, been able to have a hiking trail that went to Smith's Bridge, but so maybe the value is not quite as good as we initially thought it was going to be, but if we don't take it on, then that's it. We can kiss it goodbye. Is Lisa? Oh, Lisa's right there. Okay.
Yep, she's there.
Lisa, do you want to comment on this?
Sure. Yeah. I think that, we were saddened by the loss of the ability to continue the trail beyond the Riverside Landing easement part of it, but we're still, as a Conservation Commission, very interested in allowing the public to have access to walk along a trail in an area that's otherwise fairly heavily constructed. The current place where people have access behind Langdon Woods to the Hannafords, it's kind of rough. It's not been maintained steadily. It's a right of way for water and sewer, whereas this would be we envisioned it more of a nature trail that allows access to view the river, to enjoy the wetlands that are going to be developed by McGinley as part of his project, and kind of halfway between an urban park-like environment and a nature reserve, but more leaning towards the nature part of it than the urban park part of it. So we're not envisioning anything like a cement sidewalk, but something that would be easy enough to stroll upon by people who are staying at the Fairfield Inn or who are visiting the McDonald's and want to take a walk, people who are, not necessarily going out and doing the rugged kind of recreation that people in New Hampshire might be thinking about, but tourist type access to see the river. So anyway, I think the Conservation Commission, we're well equipped to monitor something like that. And we're also well equipped to spearhead the request for those wetland permits and to try and make that trail a reality. And we know that that might be an uphill battle depending on how much resistance there is to putting in a trail that close to the river.
Okay. Well, it seems like we have a taker. So, so what might more be required of us if we identify the Conservation Commission as?
It really is up to the board to decide if you want to proceed with this easement, and then I guess authorize the chair to sign on behalf when it's finalized and done. I wouldn't sign the copy we have tonight because we have this other deed description issue with it, but just at the future when we're ready to close on it, if you so choose. Either have the town manager or chair of the select board be the authorized signer. And then it would get recorded at the registry, and then at some point if it gets constructed, great. I guess I just want to remind you that there are responsibilities if this gets constructed at some point also for the types of limited uses, no motorized except for mobility impaired people or emergency use, and that the town would have to enforce that if somebody was out there on some kind of motorized vehicle or, using it in a way, or after hours, that kind of thing too. So there are responsibilities that come from allowing the public to go out there in this.
It's probably not in excess of what we already have on our conserved properties, or at least, they pretty much all have those same restrictions, but,
I can't answer. I would guess that most conservation easements allow access at any time. So
Would now be a good time to make a motion to accept this?
if you so choose.
okay, you can make a motion. Are you making a motion?
Yes. I'm going to move that we should accept this proposed easement for a trail on Riverside Landing as presented.
And are we going to also stipulate that the Conservation Commission?
And stipulate that the Conservation Commission be responsible for the development of a trail.
Specifically a trail manager too, right? There's a stipulation that the town identifies a trail manager. What's the term?
The trail manager, I think they have the term in there. I mean, again, you could do that at a future date. It can change, can.
Right. So
And Bill to sign. And
The
Chairman
chair
Huff.
or the town
Chair to
manager,
sign.
I would say, yeah.
That's getting complicated. So, and that
Adding on.
what's that?
Keep adding on.
It's okay,
We got
Ann's
it.
recording.
We got it.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a motion, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Did you respond? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I wasn't loud enough.
That's better. The motion carries. Very good. Okay.
Thanks, June. That was a lot of work.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you.
That was huge.
It has been.
Both of them were.
I just have a question, the yellow areas are
Conservation easements.
owned by the same folks at Riverside Landing?
Yep.
The ownership is the same?
Yes.
And the
They are both owned by, they are both owned by Riverside Landing LLC, or will be, yeah, at the time of closing on these easements.
They're buying the road land?
The title, the owner will be Riverside Landing LLC at the time of closing on all the easements of it. Because it has to be in the same party has the wetlands permit that's engaged on that development in the middle.
Steve is talking about the property to the left of the conservation.
Oh,
Yes.
beyond
Used to
that,
be
I do not
Roby
know
land,
who
but
owns
now
that.
Yeah, Presby
I think,
bought it, I guess.
yeah.
But yeah,
Next
formerly.
parcel over, I believe,
Roby.
was
Formerly
purchased by
Roby.
an LLC that may be Presby.
So that's another potential development there.
Correct.
So we should anticipate that.
They haven't asked any questions about what they can do with that site that I'm aware of, that, at least not identified in a way that, beyond broad questions that have been not site
Being
developed.
marketed as a potential development area, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be determined.
Okay. Next, or?
Thank
I'm
you.
about for the next thing
Thank you.
too, so that's why I didn't sit
Is he
down.
done?
No, she's got another thing.
You got another project?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, let me get my, there we go. Stormwater assessment. Management program update and recommendations.
About the Stormwater Asset Management Program. So I'm going to run through a few notes here, and also wanted to have Joseph Perez, our new assistant planner, have an opportunity to give a summary of our selection process here. But just in a broad sense, asset management, for if you're not aware of, really, we're still kind of trying to understand exactly how this project will go forward, because it's a lot to it. But there's a growing effort, within our infrastructure to really think of it, it's an asset, and how do we manage it? And I don't see Joe here tonight from Highway, but part of our infrastructure is our stormwater system. We actually have, obviously the presentation tonight gives you a sense of the details and the amount for one little part of our town, but we have a lot of stormwater system, throughout town, even on our back roads, our culverts, and that kind of thing. So we really, the asset management part is to trying to find a way to reduce overall operating risks and addressing infrastructure challenges in the future, trying to look at aging infrastructure, undersized, sometimes oversized infrastructure, how to better look at this public asset in the long term of how to manage it. So an asset management program kind of starts with, what are our assets, what's the condition of them, and then tries to look at, prioritizing based on a risk assessment, and also what they call a level of service, sort of some infrastructure is more critical than a back road somewhere. So there's criticality, risk, that kind of come together to review how to operate and maintain a system going forward. And then other part of that comes into the financial aspect of how much money to put in reserves for the long term, operation and maintenance versus repair and replacement, that kind of thing. So a program helps to try to build an inventory, give that level of service kind of analysis and risk assessment. So Plymouth Village Water and Sewer has actually been working on this for their infrastructure, and with their kind of nudge, the town applied first in 2020 and then reapplied in a pre-application to Department of Environmental Services for their stormwater asset management program, which was a loan program with a maximum amount of $30,000. So it was a pre-application you put in the summer, then the fall, they tell you, hey, your pre-application's been approved. And so that happened with us this year. And then in November, December, we learned that they were taking ARPA funds and changing the loan program into a grant program. So that changed the timing of everything. So it's been fast-tracked a bit, because now they're saying that what we put in was a pre-application this summer, and they want an actual application, and that's due March 31st. So the first step that we really needed to do was to select an engineer to help us with this project. So Our anticipation is we will be awarded this $30,000 grant from DES. And to get to that point, we have to first work with an engineering firm, select an engineering firm, and develop a contract with them, and then finish a scope of work that's going to be done in conjunction with town staff, and get all that together for the application by the 31st. It's a little bit convoluted in the normal process because of the ARPA requirements, but so what we did was we decided to proceed ahead with this and work towards hiring a consulting engineer or selecting one. So we started that process in January, and I was going to let Joseph explain the steps we took and where we are today with it.
Thank you. Yeah. So we put out a request for qualifications in accordance with the DES rules in January. We had a due date for statements of qualifications of the 27th of January. At that time, 2 statements were received. So a committee, which was comprised of myself, June, Bill, and Joe from Highway, met on February 2nd to talk about the statements that we'd received. With only 2 qualification statements being received at that time, we decided to extend our deadline for that until February 18th. In that extended window, we did receive 1 additional statement of qualifications. So the 3 that were received were from DPC Engineering, HEB Engineering, and Du Bois & King. All were invited to participate in interviews just last week. And at that time, after being given an opportunity to present themselves to the committee weighed each firm's performance on 5 selection criteria. The highest scoring firm was DPC Engineering, and after that time, the committee decided to move forward with recommending that firm, contingent on checking the references. Last Thursday, we checked their references. They were very strong, no issues. And as I mentioned, that was just this last Thursday. So DPC Engineering was, past that reference check.
Team approach here. So at this point, what we're asking the select board tonight, and again, this has been moving fast. So we are tonight. We need so we can follow the next steps that we need to do and meet the March 31st deadline in getting the application into DES. We're asking the select board to go with our recommendation and authorize the town to develop a contract with DPC Engineering, to not exceed the $30,000 of this grant, and then give the town manager authority to sign that contract once we get that together in the next couple of weeks. And then a second step would be to also authorize the town manager to sign the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services grant application for the Stormwater Asset Management Program. And that would be by the 31st. Do you need me to repeat that?
Sounds great.
Is that the motion? Can someone just reiterate what, June just said?
Repeat again?
Okay. And we did put all the qualification statements in the reading file downstairs, and Bill had a chance to participate, which was great. We're grateful for. That was helpful. All right, so the first I think it'd be a motion that's 2 parts: to authorize the town to develop a contract with DPC Engineering not to exceed $30,000 and give the town manager authority to sign that contract. And then a second part is authorizing the town manager to actually submit the grant application to New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services for the Plymouth Stormwater Asset Management Program.
Oh, wow. Come on. So
Neil's taking.
Very good.
Okay.
Neil's taking notes here.
Make a motion to contract with BPC Engineering for this $30,000 grant stormwater contract, and authorize the town manager to sign the contract.
Second. And then also
Authorize entering.
town manager to accept,
Could that be
apply
a
for the
second?
30.
Apply for the grant.
Basically
apply
sign the
for it.
application and accept the money. Yeah.
You got that, right?
And apply for the grant.
So, and You seconded.
Second.
You did, Ted, thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Great. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All righty. Grace Garvey.
I was gonna pick this up because I know it's
Is Grace, are you on?
Because it's warm in here now.
She was. Yes, she is.
She there?
Hi, Grace.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep, hear you now. Yep.
Thank you so much. So we have three things that we've been working on that we wanted to run by the select board tonight, and I hope I can be brief with this. The first one is that we revisited and we rewrote some of the bylaws. And on February 14th, we voted to approve the revisions that we had made. And we don't know what we need to do to get these moved through the select board just to have them be official.
Do we have to do their bylaws, or they make their own bylaws?
I think they make their own as a
Yeah, I think
commission.
so too. Yeah.
We can
So we're all
double
set in
check.
that regard.
Well, it depends. The bylaw is saying you are all get $40,000 as members of the. I guess not. It's so. Yeah, I think.
You know, I wish I had thought of that, but I didn't. No, really, we sharpened our purpose statement, which we like to look at as our mission statement, and we kind of organized it really to give us some focus as we move forward. And then we just kind of redesigned some of the pieces so they made a little bit more sense the way they were read. And that was really all the changes that we made.
Okay.
So on to number 2.
Just a sec.
Okay.
Yeah. Just one.
I'm sorry, was there a question?
Well, I'm just looking at the. So it's substantially borrowed from the previous bylaws, right? Or not?
Yes, but the purpose statement is pretty significantly rewritten.
Yep. Okay. All right. Sure. Why don't you go on to number 2?
Okay. So number 2 is that we got word that the LED lighting rebate program was potentially going to be terminated in June of 2022. We don't know quite what the status of that program is going to be, but we did an inventory of the municipal buildings that took advantage of that program. And then we looked at what buildings had not potentially yet taken advantage of that program. And we wanted to talk to the town about us working to see if we can get some monies to upgrade the buildings that have not been taken advantage of that rebate program. And those buildings would be primarily, well, the ones that took advantage were Park and Rec, Police Department, the recycling facility, and the town hall. And so we wanted to look at the other buildings to see where we could do LED lighting retrofits and then apply for rebates.
How many other buildings?
We don't have a budget.
Well, the fire department.
Fire department,
And
okay.
the library.
Right.
I don't know if,
Recycling back down, yeah.
Highway, library,
Fire department
fire department.
and the building next to the fire department. I guess we call that in one, as one. We look at that as,
what's that?
Yep.
Annex.
Annex, yeah.
and we don't have a budget for this. We don't know what it would cost. We don't know what the rebates are, but we really just wanted the select board support for us to do that research to move this potentially forward.
Yeah, that's why not the research and budgeting.
Yeah, they're researching a way to save the town money.
Right, right.
I don't know.
That's
Should we
the
approve
one.
that?
I know. We're not okay with that.
Doesn't look good.
Is that in your bylaw?
That is in our bylaw. It actually does
motion?
say that we're setting out to
Yes.
save the town taxes.
Do we need a motion, or just, yeah, I think we can
ahead.
just agree to pursue it for those,
So we're just gonna,
three buildings or whatever. Yep.
Okay.
Make it
Board
so.
says
And then the
okay.
third,
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Go for it. Third.
Number 3.
Okay. The third is that the Public Utilities Commission has been very vigilantly trying to defund the state's energy efficiency program, and a lot of even lower-income homes, businesses in the Plymouth area have taken advantage of that energy efficiency program since it's been in place, oh my goodness, almost a decade now. So we wanted to show our support of keeping the fund funded. There is a bit of a revision on the governor's desk at this point, but we wanted to go ahead and move forward and just write a letter saying that we felt that that program should be reinstated and the funding should remain, the program should remain funded. And so we just wanted, again, the select board's blessing to write that letter of support to keep that program funded.
You need a motion for that?
Yeah, I think so, because we'd have to construct a letter from the board.
Okay.
Request that.
You need a motion?
Would it be from the board, the PEC through the board?
She's asking for support for them to write a letter.
Yeah, not for the board to write a letter.
So the letter would come from you?
Correct. Similar to the letter we wrote for the EV charger station on Green Street.
Okay.
Say go for it.
Yep. I think you got a general agreement.
Yep.
Okay. And so we'll write the letter and run it by the board.
Sure.
And I think that's it. We wanted to thank the town staff and the select board for assistance while we were working through the pieces and parts about the warrant article for a potential solar array research project. And we just wanted to thank, again, everyone that supported us. And so we'll see you all on town meeting day.
Okay.
Very good. Thanks very much.
Okay. I
See
think
you,
I'm all
Grace.
set. Thank you.
See you, Grace. Bye.
Okay.
All right, Thomas Q. Disposal crisis.
Hello, everyone.
Before he starts, I just want to make sure that the board has the 2 handouts.
Yeah.
There's one I gave you when you came in
It's
today,
this one
and then there
here.
was one.
Yep.
There was another one in your package, Neil, as well. It might be similar or the same, but just wanted to make sure you saw that ahead of time.
I think we got it.
Sorry, Tom.
No, that's okay. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for your time. Is this a normal meeting? There's a lot going on. Jeez.
This is a small one, actually.
This is light.
Well, my name is Tom Q. You know that. I'm director for Casella Waste. And I guess the purpose of my virtual visit with you is same thing I'm doing across the whole state. I'm stopping at select boards, town councils, DPW, transfer stations, just to get the other side or just Casella's side out on the disposal crisis. The 6 points I gave you, the talking points, were put together by the legal team for a publicly traded company, Casella. So I have to swear by every fact on it. So it's worth reading because it's true. It's not argumentative. It's not anything. It's just the facts, the way they are. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm just going to town. I'm showing them this. It gives them another side of it to look at. This is going to be a very strong legislative year for landfilling and solid waste in general in the state. There is a pending disposal crisis. They're not generating less waste, they're generating more. We're all waiting for DES's report to come out on the waste. Should have been out already, but I'm sure it'll be out within a month or so, telling us how we look. Just the facts that are on there, I'm not going to read them all to you. You've read enough tonight and heard enough tonight. Just take a look at them. They speak for themselves. When I've been out, there have been about 5, I call it top 5 questions. They seem to be very consistent. I've spoken to dozens and dozens of town boards so far. And they've kind of asked basically, there were some different questions, but those are the questions they asked the most. I put honest answers down. Those are my answers, but I swear by those also. That's the truth. And I guess what the purpose of me taking your time is, besides just giving you this information, is when the senators vote.
Guy from Casella.
Hello? I just thought I heard somebody come in or something. I'm sorry. When the senators vote, they need to know what their towns feel. They made that very clear to me when I reached out to them on HB 177 last year. They wanted to hear from the towns themselves. Yay, we're in favor of this. No, we don't want this any way, shape, or form, or somewhere in the middle. That's how we did it last year. This year, I feel more than a debate, just kind of some information, and just give it to everybody. I'm out driving town to town to town. I have to take, for personal reasons, I'm doing a little bit more from home right now. But I just wanted the town that we deal with to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it. It makes sense. And if there were any questions, or, you have to kind of review the points to have questions, I guess, unless you have some other questions that you'd like to answer. I'm not here to take up a lot of your time. I'm here just to give you what somebody makes a bunch of statements, you see it in the paper, maybe you should have this to read too, so you can get two sides on it. So are there any questions? And again, thank you for your time. I did not realize how busy you are. But if there are anything you'd like to know, any questions you have concerning the 6 points I gave you, or the 5 common questions I gave you, or anything, please ask while I'm here.
I
didn't have any additional questions.
might have a couple, but maybe for the sake of time, I shouldn't say it, or it's.
I didn't mean to.
So I may have a question. So wouldn't a legislative focus on recycling be more effective in reducing the need for additional landfills? And that was one question.
Sure.
And then I also had a question about the fact that we have to take refuse from other states. I guess because of interstate commerce, we shall take.
Right.
If you're a private entity, you have to take it. If you're public, you don't have to take it. But and I guess the construction debris is about 40% that comes in from Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. I mean, isn't there like a way to jack up the price of out-of-state waste that would make it more economical for them to dump it in their home state?
That would be up to you. Sure.
No, like you as a company. Or
Well,
Casella.
all right. Now let's go in order. I'll start with the recycling question. We are all for recycling. We actually make a very decent living off recycling. So that's the business answer to it. New Hampshire is not good at recycling. It just, for all the small town, it just doesn't work for them. It's easy for them to throw it away. Part of this plan, I didn't want to use the Dalton word, but I will. Part of the Dalton plan is to open a transfer in a MRF in the Manchester area, somewhere around there, and we'll handle the recycling. And it would increase recycling exponentially in the state of New Hampshire. It would just make it easier, and that's the whole idea. We would do all the work. We would do the separation and the trucking of it and all of that, and that makes a lot more sense than people, putting it out by the curb, because it's just not working for them right now. Not working for most of the towns, and that's what I get from communities I speak to. As far as the hauling from other states, I will tell you this, that Casella this year is at over 90% just New Hampshire waste. That with the other ones, they're all competitors, so, me talking about them. But there is one in particular that is, way over the line as far as my opinion is on what they're bringing in from other states. It does shoot the whole number up quite a bit. We were about slightly over 80% last year, and we've turned it around to 90 this year. So, and that's also with the negotiations with Dalton. That's something that would be negotiated. It would be silly not to. Look, we want, 5 first 90% of your landfill we want our waste, the state of New Hampshire's waste in it. And I believe that, or whatever the number is, 80, 90, whatever that number is. But I know there's a number there that would make everybody a lot happier. And it would work for us. It would make us much more endeared, and it would work for you. So you're not getting bombarded with out-of-state waste. There was a third question. You don't mind if I ask you to repeat that, please?
I don't know what the third question is, but I got another question too. But so you got regarding, I guess you're going ahead with like renewable natural gas, and is that part of the Dalton site? And then you're going to ship it over to, I guess, RUDARPA or something like that?
Yeah, the power goes basically to the grid, and it is what it does for the state. Well, it supplies power. That's one thing. The other thing it does, generating that waste into power gives you the environmental credits that are quite large for the state of New Hampshire. They are a sizable revenue source, I guess, for the state. And so if in fact we have it going now with Bethlehem, of course, and if we all open in Dalton, that would be the plan for that. So no flares going, burning waste, burning gas into the air. This gas gets pumped right to a source and generated into power, and goes right to the grid for the state. That answer your question?
Yep.
Good. Really wish I could be there. I'm sorry.
And we got one more question.
You mentioned that your company's planning to have a recycling facility in Manchester. Would that be intercepting all the trash coming up 93? Would that make a reduction in the number of trucks going up from Manchester to Dalton or wherever your disposal area is?
Right. It would minimize it a bit, but I think its real strength, the function of the MRF, material recovery facility, would be to make recycling easier and local. So people go there and dump instead of driving wherever they're driving to. They're driving south, they're driving north, they're driving west to get rid of disposal. We would take it there and we would separate it and we would recycle what can be recycled and we dispose of what needs to be disposed.
So what is going to be disposed would come from that facility and go up 93 to Dalton, say?
Well, what would be recycled would go south, and we would ship that mostly to Massachusetts. So
no, but the residue
waste
would
itself
go
would
north.
come north on 93. Yes, come up 93. Yes. There's a question on trucking in the area of the proposed landfill. That's on the 5 questions. It doesn't take in that particularly. That's a good question. I should just expand it into that too. I'll put an answer on that one too and update everybody's answer on that. But it just talks about what will happen locally in the Dalton area when and if the landfill is set.
I have one more.
Yeah, go for it.
I have one more. Now, if let's just say the Dalton facility is shot down, would you be developing alternative sites, say in the southern part of the state, that would be closer to where the trash comes from?
Before we picked Dalton, we took about 2 years and we investigated every option. Believe me, south, north, we tried to find a place where it could be sited with the least interference into daily life and an area that, generates waste too. So we picked Dalton after looking. If there was something south, we would have gone after it. There isn't anything there. We looked, we tried. believe me, we knew what we were taking on when we picked Dalton. We knew what was happening. On my 5 questions there, I put down why Dalton, and it's, I think, question number 4 of the 5 is which was is landfill the best option? Why Dalton? Yeah, number 4. It's you can read it. It's well positioned. And there's a lot of you. I mean, you understand the area better than I do, so I'm not going to lecture you about the area. It was the area that worked for us the best, and we didn't see anything in the south. There was not a property that we turned down in the south. We looked. There were not even any options in the south, and that would make great sense. Anything coming north, we could stop right there at the south end and just turn it back down. But there's nothing there. And we tried Northern Mass too, and there's nothing there either. So Dalton was, Bethlehem has been so successful, and it has done, I believe, a very good job. This press both ways, but I think it's done a very good job. And Dalton is close enough. We thought it would give kind of a continuity to it also. That was one of the other thoughts, that it's there. People, we're not making haulers haul old new places all over the place. They know where they are. They set up their routes around the area. That was also part of it. So to answer your question, no, there isn't anything in the south. If anybody saw anything that they thought was worthwhile, I'd be happy to run down and measure it myself for you. But at this point, we have not seen anything. And if it doesn't go through in Dalton, I don't know quite honestly, I do not know what the options are in the state of New Hampshire after that.
Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you for the questions.
Well, thanks very much, Mr. Q. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Appreciate it.
Thank you, you too. We'll see you. Yeah.
We got one more thing on the agenda.
It's got me on the agenda. I kind of already covered it.
What are we gonna do?
Hey, but I was going to do something else, but it's 7 o'clock anyway. So, which is the broadband thing, which you attended the live version. I attended the Zoom on the broadband, Grafton County Broadband Committee, and it's pretty exciting things are happening. They're going to be doing the dog and pony shows to the different towns, but when they do, they'll describe that they're mapping 39 towns. They've had issues with the companies that provide services based on their ability to say that, have one person getting broadband service in a geographical area, that say everyone in that area has broadband. So in any event, what they're planning on doing, which is pretty damn exciting actually. Well, it's kind of interesting because they had 4,000 census blocks that we're looking at. 3,000 blocks are being challenged by current providers because of the fact that they service at least one person. There's 335 miles in the middle mile thing of the 39 towns, and ultimately they're going to have high-level designs for every single town in the county.
So this is just Grafton County?
Yep.
Yes.
So what they're going to do is hand off to each town a high-level design for every town. And then it's up to them to contract with a provider to roll it out. But, they've been doing some pretty neat things. Yeah. And I honestly, I went to one or two meetings over in Haverhill. And I figured, okay, well, this will be interesting. But one thing that helped is that they got buckets of money from ARPA, and they're going to get more as well. So, it's probably going to become a reality. So, could be a couple of years, but even still, it's pretty encouraging. So, but they'll be in touch, and they'll be down to give us a dog and pony. That's my sidewalk talk.
Interesting where the co-op comes into play too.
Also, that email that we got from either Nick or Grafton County, forwarded it to the co-op, you know, a couple of people there, and they never got back. So, you know, they were going to partner with providers to roll out their fiber network. They were going to do the trunk and just allow companies to pick it up and roll it out and then start billing, you know, but they were focusing on different areas that were Stewartstown and forget what else, but not us. And now we're going to be included in the big 39, so.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Pretty needed.
Any other committee reports?
Parks and Rec is meeting on March 16th at 5 p.m. at PES. It's coming up.
Where?
PES.
Elementary
Sorry.
Anybody else?
Yeah, we had general discussion about the Oxbow, the funding, which we discussed earlier tonight at the Conservation Commission. And, you know, we now have the funding to review the Yellow Book appraisal on those properties that abut the Oxbow project. And, you know, we discussed a lot of the items tonight that were on their agenda at the last meeting. You know, the easement trail at Riverside Landing, and we discussed developing wildlife action update. It's April 22nd, that's Earth Day. There's going to be a presentation. We had discussions about invasive plant management, which is getting to be a serious problem in the town. We need to have an information campaign and involve homeowners and get more information on the website. And the Conservation Commission would like to be able to improve its communications with the planning board. And they just feel that they need to have a little more access there.
But they have a member on there?
They do. I think it's more in the management end of it.
Two members. Well, Rebecca, formerly
Yeah.
of Conservation, right?
Yeah. So that's pretty much, you know, we covered quite a lot tonight at this meeting with the Conservation Commission. And the Energy Commission, we had a full discussion there with Grace tonight.
Yep.
They're all happy. I was looking at this municipal equipment and infrastructure list here, and I noticed a billy goat, and you know, I got one I'll sell you for less than $6,000. But I don't know if Joe would want it.
Milk it. Make soap.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, one quick thing. Excuse me. So I was just thinking about Lisa Donor. I don't know if she's still on or not. So we were, my wife and I were out hiking on Faber East, which is a nice little conservation trail. And I mean, for a nice little, in fact, we were commenting on the fact that, you know, if you're like at home, you're doing some work at home, you have like a lunch break, just to do a quick, you know, shit, I'm gonna die. A quick hike.
Hey, here, no.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You know,
Those
Bob-
belong to Zach, but he's not here.
Oh, he'll get over it. So it's just, this is like a 3-mile hike, something like that, just a quickie, and just go out, you know, snowshoeing. It ain't like on the red line, but you know, it really is kind of.
Redlined it.
What's that?
I've redlined it.
But anyway, it's really nice what the Conservation Commission is maintaining as far as, access to really nice little hiking trails around town. So there. Any other comments? About a motion then?
Don't we
Oh, do we have anything else?
Well, we have the town manager update that we should.
She has.
I read her report. I liked it.
Yeah. Very, very full.
I'm still working on what Ted's asked for in addition.
So to kind of, I'll jump in a little bit for what I asked for. I'm looking for numbers that we can relate to other towns. For example, like in highway, how can, more than just numbers of budget and number of people, how many miles are maintained for highway? So that gives us a way of comparing what we're doing in this town and what we're allocating in funds in this town to what's happening in other towns. So it may point out some areas, hey, we aren't funding this enough relative to other towns with the same number of miles. But we have to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. And so for highway, that's number of miles of road that they maintain. For example, like in recycling, we care more about how many tons of stuff they have that they process versus how many residents are in town that are using it. It makes more sense. So if we're going to say it's costing us $490,000 to run this, well, how many tons does that get us? And that gives us an opportunity to get information about other towns and say, well, how many tons are they processing? So we have a way of level setting, saying, if it's within a tolerance, we know we're doing okay. But if, for example, we found that, wow, we're spending twice as much per ton to manage it in Plymouth than it is in the comparator towns that we're using, well, then that suggests that we have to do something differently. And so that's how we can be responsible to the taxpayers. It's not that we necessarily need to take something away from them, but this is a tool that allows us to say, hey, can we do it better than what we have been? And just do that for each of the major departments.
How many towns are you using for comparison?
You had like 8.
Oh, wow.
But once you have a measure,
Right.
you can add other towns, and they should all be within some tolerance of each other. So you can see if you're way off. And obviously, the more towns you use in your comparison, the more accurate or more refined a gauge you're going to get. And those other towns might appreciate having the same data too, so we can share.
True. Very good.
So it'll take me a little bit of time anyway to get the tonnage and the number of miles. The budgets are easier, like finding out which, what.
Because those are usually online someplace, so
you
they can just
But
reference
the other
them.
stuff you kind of have
Those
to.
are useful pieces of information.
Yeah.
But again, I did have a comment about the police officers, though. In Plymouth, we do have another police force that are authorized by the board and do carry out activities, police activities, and they have their own budget. And we count, in terms of residents in Plymouth, we count students.
I
They
can
count-
send you that information.
So we want to make sure that we're including that information. For your example, Keene, they probably have their own police force too. So we would want to include, because it's another college town, we'd want to include the Keene State Police Force as well. That might be a little harder to get, but I'm sure that you probably have contacts.
I do.
Are Keene's police officers part of the town?
I don't know
Yeah.
yes or no there. I do know in Plymouth, yes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, I asked that question of their city manager, and I'm pretty sure she said that they don't have a police force, they have security.
Okay, so it's not the same
campus
thing.
security, right.
So then for the purposes of Keene, the actual number of the Keene police counts fully.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she did take like 46 officers, and she said that's like, well, actually, that article that I
saw
sent
it, I
out
saw it, yeah.
said that's one officer per 547 residents, or something like that. I don't remember the number of residents, but so I thought
497.
400. No, okay. I was close.
I just remembered it. That's all.
But I thought that was kind of a good guideline, like one officer per 400. That's actually, I would not want to be that one officer taking care of 497 people, but.
Depends on the kinds of people you're taking care of, though.
Right, right.
Well,
If they're all like Bill, that would be fine. but-
Exactly, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, you mean, you probably have towns that you can, like Wentworth, they probably legitimately have one officer
Yeah.
and a population that's around there.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Or
Yeah.
no officer.
Like, I think Thornton only has 2 officers. I don't know what their population is, but I don't think they spread very far.
I don't know.
I live in Thornton. I see Campton cops on the road more than I see Thornton. So,
Because they live there?
yeah.
Interesting. Anything else? What?
I'm ready.
Oh, I thought you were like glaring at me there.
You forgot something.
Somebody have a motion, perhaps? Jesus.
Still early.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a
Second.
Oh, there's a second. Any discussion? Seeing none.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Good night, Pete.
Opposed, nay.